This is lesson 8.2, and the name of this particular section is the equation of a line, and we have done this, I think it was chapter 3 of this book, but again we're going to do some review. And you remember the slope-intercept form an equation is like this. So what we can do is we can take an equation that looks something like 2x plus 3y equals 6. And for us to solve this quickly and easily or graph it, we take that and we change it to that form. Okay, so that means that we have to get our y all by itself. So let's go ahead and just do that. So in order to get y by itself, we get rid of the 2x that's over there and we move it over, and we always put it first. Always put the x first. Then we divide this by 3 and divide this side by 3, and now we have y by itself. Now remember, when we have this whole thing over 3, we split it up. Okay, so it becomes negative 2/3 x plus 6 over 3. We put that 3 under the 6 and under the 2, and then we write it as negative 2/3 x plus 2. Now we have it written in slope-intercept form. And that makes it real nice because when it's in slope-intercept form, we can find real quickly and easily, we can find the slope and the y-intercept. And with those two bits of information, we can graph any line. Now, one of the things that's important here is every equation has a line, has a picture of itself. So this is the name of the equation, and when we draw a graph, that is the picture of the equation. So it's just like a photograph of the equation. Okay, it's a picture of what the equation looks like. And we're learning to go back and forth between given the picture and writing the equation, or given the equation and drawing the picture. And times we don't give you one or the other. We just give you bits and pieces and ask you to find the parts that we're looking for. So if I tell you the slope is negative 4/5 and the y-intercept is 5, and they say graph the line. Okay, well, let's get a graph on here. Okay, so we're trying to graph the line, and this is example number 1. It's asking us to do two things: write the equation and then graph the line. Alright, so let's write the equation first, since that's what they want us to do. It doesn't really matter. Alright, so we want to write it in the form like that. Alright, so we know that m equals negative 4/5, so I'm going to replace that. And the y-intercept is 5. Y-intercept, the way they label y-intercept is with the letter B. There's the equation of the line. Okay, that's all there is to that. Now let's graph it. And then to graph it, I have to have these two bits of information. I have to have the slope and I have to have the y-intercept. Alright, so the first thing I need to do is graph the y-intercept. The y-intercept is, where does the line cross the y-axis? Well, it says it's at 5, so it crosses right there. Well, that gives me 1 point. Okay, I need 2 points in order to graph, so I've given 1. Alright, the next part is I'm going to use the slope in order to determine where my next point is. Alright, I'm given the slope of negative 4/5. Alright, that is also, the slope is y over x. So y is negative 4 and x is 5. Alright, so what that means is we start with the negative 4 and we go with y, you go up or down. So we go down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we go left or right 5. In this case it's a positive, so we go right 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and we can draw our line then. And there's the drawing of that equation that we just had. Let me slide this over a little bit. this equation right here. That's the picture of it. Alright, let me move the graph back or into the right place. I think it was right there, wasn't it? Alright, made a mess of it. There we go. Alright, so what if, how do we know that, given this equation, how do I know that the 4 is negative instead of the 5? Well, let's make the 5 negative and see what happens. Let's make it 4 over negative 5. So again, we're going to start at our y-intercept, which is still 5 right here, and right here is 5, so we're going to start there. But we're going to go up or down 4, and it's a positive 4, so we're going to go up 4. We're going up there, and then we're going left negative 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So notice that point is still on the line. So if I were to use this, I would have this point here and this point here. Now when I draw the line, what do I get? I get the same line there. So it doesn't matter if you make the top number negative or the bottom number negative. If you're like, where does this negative go? Doesn't matter. Put it on one or the other and then make the other one positive, and it'll still give you the same line. Okay, for example 2, it gives you an equation, 2x minus 3y equals 5. And the question says give the slope and y-intercept. Doesn't ask you to graph, it just says what is the slope and the y-intercept. Well, the slope and y-intercept are found by writing this in y equals mx plus b format. So that means we're going to have to solve for y. So let's leave the 3y there. We're going to move the 2x over. Okay, then we're going to divide by negative 3 and divide by negative 3. So we get y equals, because those cancel. And then we split these up. Negative 2x over negative 3 plus 5 over negative 3. And then two negatives right here make a positive. And we'll put the number in front and the x next to it. And this, you can write it as positive 5 over negative 3. So let's just go ahead and do that. I'm just going to make it negative 5 over 3 just because I like the negative on top. It doesn't really matter. Like I said in the last one, you're going to get the same answer. And that ends up being your answer. Except you can change this. Doesn't really matter to me what you do there. But a positive and a negative is a negative. So you can just write it like that if you want. Alright, so now let's look at example number 3. And they give us the equation 2x plus 3y equals 6, and they're asking us to graph that. So first of all, we're going to put this into that form right there. So let's go ahead and get rid of the 2x, move it over here, put it first in front of the 6, divide by 3, divide by 3, and we get y equals, split these up, negative 2/3 x, and then plus 6 over 3 is 2. And there is our equation in slope-intercept form. Alright, now they want us to graph that. So let's move that over here. First of all, we're going to look at the y-intercept. Where does it cross the y-axis? At 2. If it said negative 2, it would be down here, but it said positive 2, so it's there. Now we look at our negative 2/3. Now remember, negative 2/3 is our y over x. So our negative 2 is our y, and our 3 is our x. So that means we go up or down 2 on the from the slope, or from the y-intercept. Because it's a negative, we go down 2, we end up there, and then the 3 says we go over positive 3. And then we connect our dots, and there's our line, or our graph of this equation right there, and that's all there is to that. Alright, so sometimes we need to take some of the stuff that we've learned and we're given certain information. Let's say, for example, like I showed you how to write an equation or find the graph of an equation where they gave you, say, 2 points. So if I gave you 2 points, remember we used the y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and that equaled m. Okay, sometimes they aren't going to give you 2 points. Sometimes all they're going to do is give you maybe a point and the slope. Well, then we're going to take this equation, we're going to make a little bit of a change to it. We're going to rewrite that equation as y2 minus y1 equals m times x2 minus x1. And this is called the point, that's supposed to be point, slope form of the equation of a line. Alright, so if they give that to you, there is a way, let's move that up here, to go ahead and solve these. So for example, if I tell you that my slope is -2 and that it contains the point 4, 3, what have I given you? I've given you a point, I've given you the slope. That's why it's called the point-slope form of the equation. Alright, so what they have done is, let's call this x1, y1. Okay, you can call it x2, y2 if you want, but let's call it x1, y1. And our m, we said, was -2. So, that being the case, we have y2, which we don't know what that is from up here, minus y1, which we said the 3 is y1 because that's the y, equals the slope, -2 times what's x2, we don't know, minus what's x1. x1 we said was the -4. Okay, so we have in y2 minus 3 equals -2 times x plus 4. Okay, now let's go ahead and distribute that -2. So we have y2 minus 3 equals -2. Okay, so I distributed that here and there. And let's move all this up. Now I'm going to add 3 to both sides. Okay, so that gives me okay, now I'm going to take off these numbers because I don't need them anymore. The only reason I really needed them there is if I had more than one x, so I could determine which one was which. So now I have that. Right there is the equation of the information that they gave us. A slope of -2, and the line goes through -4, 3. There's the equation that has that information there. Okay? So I just wrote the answer in slope-intercept form. Remember, slope-intercept form is this. Okay? Alright, let's look at example 5 in the next video.